Thanks a lot. I think we have an illustrious panel here, and just before this, we've had one fantastic session between Nirupa and Vipul. I've never seen such candidness on a panel before, and such candidness exhibited with great humor. So I think it gives us a good segue into this panel. We have a very illustrious panel here, like she introduced people who are already unicorns, soon to be unicorns. Thankfully, we don't have a babycorn here, but you can consider me as the babycorn. I'm going to, the way we've structured this panel is that the panelists will speak for about 20 to 25 minutes, not more than that. And we want to leave a lot of time for audience questions. I was here in the earlier panels as well and saw that there is a lot of desire among all of you to ask questions, and we've kept enough time for that. But let me get started with, and I will use partiality, so I'll start with someone closest to me, with Srikanth. I'd like all the panelists to quickly introduce themselves, their company. Why did they become entrepreneurs? And why did they choose this space? So Srikanth, she said about you, you had some personal challenges or personal requirements, so maybe you could just dwell on that. But quickly introduce HomeLane, why you became an entrepreneur, and why you chose this space.
Sure. So we are, just to make people happy, we are a interior solution provider, not a platform. We've been around now for about 8.5 years. We have served more than 30,000 customers, as in we have done about 30,000 homes so far. We currently do about 1,000 homes a month and present in about 22 cities. We are focused primarily on doing complete home interiors for the urban Indian middle class. So we're very clear about the TG that we're going after. We don't do too high-end, nor do we do affordable homes. We only serve the middle class at the moment because that's the only one which is scalable as per my view. Yeah, we do use quite a bit of tech, but it's mostly in the design side and on the quoting side to make sure that the journey is transparent for the customer. Other than that, pretty much not yet using robotics for installation, but hopefully someday, yes. Yeah, so that's about HomeLane. I've been an entrepreneur for the last 29 years. I've not done anything else. I joined Wipro as soon as I graduated, left in 3 months. I thought that I would be better off being on my own rather than working for someone else. About 8.5 years, actually no, 9.5 years ago, my last startup, which was in EdTech, before it became a bad word, was acquired by Pearson, UK-based education company. I joined them as their CEO for India for a very brief while, and I realized that the decision I'd made 20 years ago was a wise one of not working for somebody, so I left pretty much soon after, and again got back into HomeLane. The reason I started HomeLane was very simple. I found that whenever a middle-class consumer was buying a home or doing up their home, the journey was pretty much mostly a sad story, ended up being sad, and there was zero predictability. No predictable quality, no predictable budget. Budget just keeps going up, and most importantly, no predictable timeline. So started to try and solve that, still trying to solve that.
Thanks, Srikanth. I hope that PropTech won't become a bad word 10 years from now, and I'm sure it won't. So Tanuj, moving on to you, please introduce Square Yards. And I know you've had an association with Brigade Reap. You've acquired a couple of startups, so maybe now or later you could touch upon that as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Amir. Thanks for having me here. A lot of familiar faces today. So Square Yards, we run the entire consumer touchpoint journey in the home buying process. Started with real estate, moved on to mortgages, built property management, home renovations. At the back end of that, there is a large B2B integrated platform. We work very, very closely with most of the developers, banks, agents, small channel partners. So our thought process right from the day one has been that the journey is so complicated when it comes to searching for a house, buying a house, getting a loan done, moving into a house, the services involved, that it gets broken at various junctures, various touch points. how do we integrate all of them, how we provide a seamless experience, how do we ensure that in terms of pure economics, we remonetize the same client, but more importantly, in terms of the experience, the consumer doesn't need to go anywhere else. Obviously, each one of these have come at various stages in the ecosystem. Luckily for us and for the space, all of these are very fragmented, unorganized ecosystems. So there's a large opportunity out there. Multiple players can coexist, continue to scale, and continue to drive the synergies within each segment to each other. Today, we are the largest B2C player on the real estate and mortgage digital ecosystem side. We move close to $1.5 billion worth of real estate assets. We move close to $2 billion worth of mortgages every year. Other businesses are fairly recent. We manage close to 1,500 houses, work with most of the developers on their VR. Metaverse is a dirty word today, but a lot of real-time application of metaverse happening in real estate. We are creating digital twins of cities. We are launching a 3D marketplace in Dubai. In another 4 months, will be followed in India. And effectively at the back end of that, trying to bring them all together.
And so Tanuj, why an entrepreneur and why this space?
Accidental entrepreneur. So was from capital markets, worked for various spaces. I don't know how many of you people are familiar with Maslow's theory. One fine day Maslow's theory stuck. Didn't want to get up for work. Wanted to build a legacy. That's a very honest answer. Wanted to build something which outlives me, which outlives us as founders. 100 years later, there is an organization should exist.
Good. Thanks, Saurabh. Thanks, Tanuj. So Saurabh, coming to your story, and quickly, what No Broker does, I think your name tells what you do, and maybe you'll hurt a few people in this audience, but quickly, your story and why and this space.
Hi everyone. So, as Samir mentioned, No Broker, as the name suggests, it's a platform that connects owners, tenants, buyers, and sellers directly without any broker, without any middleman. So we have more than 2 crore registered customers. Every month we do around 60,000 rental transactions. We sell around 5,000 properties every month. Overall, in a year, we do around $8 billion worth of transactions on the platform. And I think over a period of time, we also realized that the entire customer journey is broken. So how can we make the entire journey easier? So we have now become a one-stop shop. Anything that the customer needs in their real estate journey, they can do it No Broker itself. I mean, for example, if you're renting a home, you need a rent agreement, you need packers and movers. If you're buying a home, you need home loans, you need interiors. So end-to-end, anything can be done at No Broker itself. No Broker started because of the personal pain points which I discovered in this journey. So I used to live in Mumbai, and I used to work with Unilever that time. I had just quit my job and was trying to find a home back in 2007. And I tried all the platforms that existed that time. And I said, I'll try to do it without a broker because brokerage is very high in Bombay, and just quit the job, to paise bhi nahi the. So tried it for 2 months, couldn't find anything, ultimately had to pay huge amount of brokerage given the Bombay rates. And the funny thing is that after 11 months, when I was renewing the agreement with the same landlord, the broker came back and said, ki aapko wapas brokerage deni padegi. And that's the rule of this place. So that was kind of the tipping point. So I think 2007, 2008 is when I booked this domain name, No Broker, saying it has to be solved. And 2013, 14 is when we started. It's been 8 years. And now we are largest prop tech real estate platform in India. That's how it happened.
Thanks, Saurabh. And so you'll notice at least 2 out of the 3 people, the reason for them becoming entrepreneurs was a personal pain. And my own experience when we invested in Red Bus, Fanindra Sama, who co-founded it, his reason for starting that company was also a personal pain. He wanted to go to Hyderabad for Diwali, which was his hometown, decided at the last minute, couldn't get a bus ticket, went from agent to agent, and couldn't go home for Diwali. So he said there must be a better way, and he started Red Bus. So I guess that's a common inspiration for a lot of us who become entrepreneurs. So Souvik, turning to you, you may have the hardest time or you may very easily satisfy what Vipul said, that call anything prop tech, but your journey, what you do, why you started it, and why this space.
Yeah, so I'm the co-founder of InfraMarket. The thesis with which we started was many of the product categories that we felt in the construction space were extremely fragmented, and we wanted to build a better way for that product to reach the final consumer. We have now evolved into a horizontal play where we eventually want to be a large brand, a horizontal large brand across construction materials. So we have a very well-known brand in paint, concrete, we do electrical, styles, and our thesis remains that we want to build a channel which can service both B2B, retail, B2C consumers, and eventually sell more and more product categories which are associated with construction and home building through that channel. We do more than, this year we'll be doing more than $1.5 billion worth of transactions, profitable, more than $100 million of EBITDA this year. So we are not startup in that space when we started out. Started this company in 2016, quit my job in 2014, didn't want to go back to job, pursued management education. Didn't, at that time, B2B was just about starting out. You know, you had a couple of traditional players launching B2B platforms at that stage. Didn't want to become a distribution platform. We were very clear about that. We wanted to work with micro manufacturers. We work with small manufacturers, help them contract manufacture products under our brand, and create a channel through which they can increase their capacity to sell. Wanted to work like that, wanted to really build private label brands out of India in the construction material space. We felt it was very fragmented. And we also realized that a lot of the small consumers in India want to shift from unbranded to branded. We wanted to be part of that change, but yet during that shift they were price conscious. So we wanted to cater to that demand. Mainly focused in tier 2, tier 3 India, but wanted to start up. Construction is where I worked when I passed out from my college and sort of had a job in construction sector. So when I passed out, it was the only viable thing for me to do. Saw an opportunity and that's where we are. So that's how we started.
Great, thanks a lot, Souvik. So one common thread you would have seen among all the 4 entrepreneurs here is that they are all solving a real pain point for their customers. And I was surprised to see Souvik's EBITDA, $1.5 billion GM sale, but $100 million EBITDA, which is nothing to sneeze off and something to be very proud about. But if you notice across all their stories, whether it was their own pain that made them start it or not, they picked a problem that was plaguing customers, that customers were dissatisfied about, were not getting good quality products, were not getting homes in time or in quality, were not getting rentals properly without paying huge brokerage. And that is the genesis of a lot of successful startups. But, you know, yes, they are all big companies, unicorns, to be unicorns and all that stuff. But I'm sure, like in every venture, there are challenges that they have faced. And we'll very quickly, in 2 minutes each, I'd request you to talk about the challenges that you faced in your journey, and not just funding challenges, because funding then, you know, everyone starts beating people like us up, but surely talk about that, but also talk about your other challenges that you faced. And maybe this time, Souvik, we'll start with you.
So when you start a business in India, I'll first take on HDFC. So when you start a business in India, and I'll not take you up. I think the first thing you want to do is you don't, at least when we started in Bombay, we were not in the, we were not part of Bangalore. So it was not like we were very close to the VC or tech ecosystem. Problem is obviously that as a first generation entrepreneur, to get your business funded, the first person you go to would be a bank, right? Because that's the initial way you start. It's lucky we went there first. That's why we are still profitable, because at that time we had to pay back, right? It's not VC money. It was tough. Mortgaged parents' house, my co-founder mortgages, in-laws' house, first generation entrepreneurs, we didn't have any assets. 3 years we were bootstrapped. Nobody wanted to touch construction and infra. Before we raised our first round of capital from venture ecosystem, we were already, I think, doing more than $10 million in revenue and profitable at that time. So we were one of the few startups at that time which raised our seed round before, and we were profitable. We worked, I think one of the toughest things that we've had to face is convince VCs and not only VCs, but everyone, every external stakeholder, where the decision making is not happening from someone who's on the ground. And sadly, that is part of the ecosystem. See, if you're talking to a VC who's sitting out of a, their New York office, to explain concrete production in Bombay is an extremely complex business model. And it's not something, but luckily what we were building was originally Indian, but we were not building the XYZ of India. We were not there was no B2C start, there was no B2B infra market out there. I think one of the things that B2B startups and maybe construction tech, prop tech startups will have to understand is that if they are not building a copycat version of something that has happened globally, because we are solving India-specific problems, while that originality plays out, but you have to go out and really work hard in explaining your business. And you cannot complain that people don't understand your business. See, because like you cannot complain the customer doesn't buy your product. You can't complain people don't understand your business. You have to work your backside off where you have to make them convince. I think that is one of the toughest things that we've done in building our business up.
Good, thanks. I really liked what he said. I mean, liked in a lighter vein, that bang, so we have to pay back. VC money lete to it's okay. You don't have to worry about it in a lighter vein.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Saurabh, why don't you also touch upon some of the problems in building your business that you face, some challenges?
Sure.
And how you overcame them?
So I think we had very similar, some similar things to what Souvik mentioned, and a lot of other challenges also. So when we started, I think it was very, very difficult to raise money because no other real estate platform had made any headway that time. And I think we bootstrapped for almost 1 year. We spoke to all the VCs that existed at that time. I don't think there would be even one whom we have not spoken to. And the simple thing was कि real estate में पैसा नहीं बनता. And second was कि यार broker के बिना तो काम हो ही नहीं सकता है. Everybody told us that there is nothing like this that exists in China. There is nothing like this that exists in the US. So why will it happen in India? That was something which we struggled for almost a year, trying to explain to people that the market dynamics are very different. Those are regulated markets. There the broker has to undergo an exam, a certification, and there also actually people hate brokers. But in India, I mean, it was impossible because the quality of the entire transaction was so very poor. So it was very, very difficult. And after almost 1 year, we were lucky that 3 investors said, okay, we'll give you a term sheet. I remember it was a Tuesday, and they said that Wednesday is when we'll give you a term sheet, and we were waiting eagerly for that day. And Wednesday morning, the headlines in all the newspapers was that one of our competitors has raised $90 million from a very large fund. And suddenly, all the investors became very fidgety. They said, "Ki nahi, ab to market has been captured." $90 million for a real estate was a huge amount of money that time, right? And it became actually practically impossible for us to raise money. But I think biggest learning I had at that time was that you need to be irrationally optimist about your idea. And if you believe in that, and if you believe what you're doing is something which makes a difference, then of course things will happen. And I think in raising money, everybody says you just need one person. So Elevation Capital, SAFE partners at that time came in and invested money in us. So that's how our journey started. And we thought ki, everything is now behind us. Now we'll just grow and scale up. But I think it was not that easy. Within raising money, within 6 months of that, a group of brokers attacked our office, and they broke our office. Everything, was torn down. We had to vacate that office for almost 2 months. We were working from 2 makeshift offices. I think we were very naive at that time. We didn't realize what a disruption can do. So that was how it was. But I remember that time when one of our investors came and told us, Saurabh, this is going to be good for you. And I was like shocked. Boss, हमारे पास बैठने की जगह नहीं थी. We were sitting on mattresses and doing it. And he said, no, it's going to be good for you. So So I didn't realize, but I think that incident really was good for us because the entire team came out so much stronger, came out believing about what we are doing, realizing that we are doing something impactful. So that was second big challenge which we had. And thirdly, of course, building a C2C platform is always challenging because you're building two sides of the marketplace. Unlike a B2C platform, you have to make sure that the customers which are on both the sides, you do the matchmaking perfectly. For example, a person needs to buy a house in Koramangala, 5th block on that road, and you need supply on that place. He is not okay to say, okay, I'll go to 4th block. So getting that kind of a matchmaking and making sure that both sides match, very, very challenging. But the good thing is if you're able to do that, then the flywheel becomes very strong. And then it keeps on growing by itself. So I think that's what happened with us.
Got it. I think great execution. And of course, both of them have talked about the originality of ideas, but have also talked of the fact that if you have an original idea, which is not the Uber of India or XYZ of India, you have a challenge convincing investors. Unfortunately, investors are a herd mentality tribe. Tanuj, quickly your challenges, and then Shrikant, and then we'll throw it open to the audience.
इनको VCs ने बोला only. I think VCs told them brokers के बिना market नहीं चल सकता. VCs told us brokerage cannot scale up. So anyhow, but that boils down to I think the biggest challenge we tried solving. I believe we have been able to solve partially is the ecosystem issue. A lot of that has to do with stakeholders. Nothing against Brigade, but most of people mentioned that ask developers to pay up in time. And there were significant models which came before us. We did nothing innovative, I believe, nothing rocket science. We built a logical business, we believe. People tried before us. People were not able to do despite having brilliant founders, brilliant teams, is because the ecosystem failed them. The concept of working capital cycle, the concept of leakages, the concept of write-offs. Pretty much every meeting we were asked this question: how will you ever make money? How will you ever be profitable? The reason being, in developer lingo, actually, a distributor ranks below the T vendor in the pecking order. So we kept telling ourselves, I think what Saurabh also mentioned, that relentlessly optimistic that at scale, theoretically, these problems will solve. If you become an integral part of the ecosystem, people cannot cheat you or people cannot disrobe you. Which is what we did. We attained that bargaining power, pricing power in the ecosystem, that a developer has to come back to me every month. And if a developer has to come back to me every month, then the developer has to agree on a lot of fair terms, not unfair terms, a lot of fair terms, that paying us in time, paying us what we are owed. For example, a couple of years back, 4 years back, and I think everyone heard about NCR market, most notorious of them all. We just woke up one day, we told developers that we will not work with you unless there is an escrow. Consumer payment will go to an escrow. We get our brokerage and then you get paid. It was unheard of. Only private equity players do escrows with developers. Fortunately, we had the bargaining power to influence that. My team told me it's not possible, no one would agree. We said, okay, pick up the phone, tell every developer we'll stop working from today if that doesn't happen. In 30 days, every developer in NCR had an escrow with us. And that set a trend for the industry as well. So that's been one of the biggest challenges we have solved.
Great. So conviction really works. Shrikant, your challenges?
So mine were a little different. I had, thankfully for me, I had sold my earlier business, which was in EdTech, and the VCs, like they do in, I'm sorry, but not to reflect on you, but it was supposedly a winning horse. So I could raise my first round at least reasonably easily. My problem came after that. 6 months into the business, I had started the business basically for scaling and nothing else. I just found that getting customers to sign up with HomeLane for home interiors projects was much more easier than I expected. Chappad faad ke orders aa rahe the. We were doing like 3-4 crores a month before, like 6 months into the business. I said, what's going on? What was I doing in education for 14 years? I should have started this much earlier. And then I realized the problem. The service that we provide or the solution that we provide is a combination of product and service. The product is very scalable. The service is not very scalable. And that's where the issue was. I still get nightmares thinking of some customers' requests. One customer came and said, "Acha, मेरे बेटे को म्यूजिक बहुत पसंद है, आप कॉट बना रहे हो, आप पियानो के शेप में बना दो कॉट." So I said, how am I going to even deliver this, right? But, and that's when it struck me that in this case, at least as far as services is concerned, less can be more, which means that choose what you don't want to do first, because if you try and do everything, you will not be able to scale the business. I mean, that's why I said we are very middle-class customer focused. We don't do high-end projects. We don't do too much of low-end. We only do the middle-end, because that's what the engine is prepped up for, because the services that come with it are not scalable. So if a customer is spending 20 lakhs on doing up a house, one view to look at it is, I want that whole share of wallet of 20 lakhs, I want everything. We don't look at it that way. We are great, probably I can say amongst the best, on doing, say, 10 lakhs out of the 20 lakhs. We only vie for the 10 lakhs of wallet share. We don't even compete for the other 10. So the first 6 months, we kind of took the whole 20 lakhs, got bogged down by so much of execution pressure and miserable failure. We used to take NPS for every customer from day one, because the reason I started this business was to make the difference to the journey of the customer. At one point in time, our NPS was minus 40. Till then, I didn't even know that NPS could be negative. I was always thinking it can be worst 0. But then we went to, and then I realized that then this is definitely not going to scale from a perspective of, and that's when I thankfully chanced upon a book, Uncommon Service. I'd recommend it to everyone who's in service delivery. It's a HBS authored book. And it says, if you need to be great at a couple of things, you necessarily need to be bad at a couple of things. If you're not bad at a couple of things, you'll never be great at a... So we wanted to be great at predictability. So we said we have to be bad at variety if you need to be great at predictability. So, but that lesson came through after a lot of hardship. And like I said, identifying what we didn't want to do. So yeah, that was one of the hardest parts for us.
Great response, Srikanth. And so if you noticed across the panel, in terms of challenges, Srikanth talked of focus and the importance of not doing what will derail your business or take you away from your goal of customer satisfaction. And Tanuj, Shauvik, and Saurabh talked of remaining true to your idea. Don't worry about what your investors say. Ek ne bola, brokers are not wanted. The other said, brokers will never, disappear. But they stuck to their idea and contradictory ideas, and both of them have built successful businesses. So I think you've got a lot of ideas on if you are building your own enterprise, what to do, how to focus, etc., etc. Let's throw it open to questions. Like happened in the previous panel, raise your hand. A mic will magically come to you. And whoever has the mic, get up and ask. Just say your name and make your question brief. And if it's to a panelist, address it to the panelist.
I am Satya. This question is for Saurabh. Saurabh, you mentioned that you went to pretty much every VC in town. Did you talk to Samir?
Yeah, I think we spoke to Samir also. We're very early in the journey. Yes.
Okay.
Hi, Sauvik, this is Bhargav. My question is to you. While working in the B2B space, how challenging was it to replace the existing vendors or the credit system or the payment, or in the B2C space, how was it challenging to address the touch and feel of the product while trading the construction material online?
I'll answer the second one first, the B2C space. So we do have experience centers. Our thesis in the B2C space is that we will build our version of how one-stop home improvement solution stores should look. And we're targeting tier 2, tier 3, where you can come and touch and feel the product, but the servicing and the entire supply chain logistics flows digitally. So you can order and we'll get service from the warehouse. So we have warehouses across tier 2, tier 3 Maharashtra. We do have in tier 1 also, the Bangalore or Hyderabad, but our focus is more on tier 2, tier 3. So you have the Ratnagiri, the Akolas, Sataras. We focused on more, we have stores in Hubli. So where we want to focus on that part of in B2C. In B2B space, our focus is very simple. We wanted to go after the fragmented market where the brands did not have a very high market share. So if you look at any product category in India, majority of the product categories, the brand have a 30-40% market share. 50-60% is unbranded. And our focus was not to take on the brands. Our focus was how do we consolidate 10 to 15% of the unbranded space, right? And how do we then build an ecosystem? And credit is part of the industry. You have to give credit, you get credit, you give credit, you have to have a credit underwriting process. And you have to build your team for that. I think for us, we have successfully shown that it can be built in fragmented spaces. I'll give you an example. Concrete was the first product we started. We are today India's second largest concrete brand. We are larger than some of the largest cement players in India in concrete. India today only has 10% concrete compared to cement, dry cement. Global standards are at 80%. It's a sunlight, we are really expected to be a sunrise industry where we expect the share to move up. I think in the fragmented spaces, there's enough room for us to grow out. And it's possible to replace existing vendors because existing vendor base is very fragmented. And if you can actually build a scalable solution that is geographically sort of, present pan-India, there will be customers who are looking at you and, will adopt your solutions.
Thanks, Shobhik.
Hello. Hi, my name is Akash, and we have a bootstrap startup. And my question is for everybody sitting out there. I want to know what an entrepreneur or what a founder should not do other than putting up a lot of emotions to scale.
Who wants to take that? Anyone?
What a founder should not do to scale.
To scale.
You shouldn't listen to others and do things. I firmly believe a founder has the one right the founder should always keep to himself is to make his own mistakes. Because when you make your own mistakes, see, it's not that if you listen to someone else, you will be unsuccessful. If you do it yourself, you'll be successful. But you should do what intuitively makes sense to you. You do your research and you say, okay, this is what I want to build. The best part of making your own mistakes is you learn from them. It's impossible to learn from someone else's mistakes and copy someone else. Make your own mistakes, so at least when you sleep at night, you are convinced that, okay, I made that decision, I got it wrong, but that's what in your heart, you know that's what you wanted to do. That's what you believed was the right way. If you follow someone else, you'll always live with that regret.
So don't follow someone else is a point. Saurabh,
I'll just add to this. I think what you should not do is not stop speaking to your customers. You need to understand your customers really, really well. What are their pain points? What are the triggers, barriers? If you stop doing that, I think you'll just stop innovating. You'll never be able to scale.
And I think Srikanth alluded to one point when he spoke. Don't do too many things. Pick what you're very great at and focus on that. Thanks. But you need the mic. Okay, you ask it next, ma'am. Why don't you go ahead and ma'am, we'll come to you next.
Yeah, I'm Pradeep and we are on Nanocon. And what we are doing is like 3D print houses in 10 days and we already done that and we have made a system in which can be completed in 1 day comparatively, which was previously 4 months. We have figured out scalability, we have figured out how we can do that. But the next thing is like we have to take it like a scale where the developers are like can use it, right? And especially for Mr. Srikanth, like how we want to put these things into picture. Whether should we like take the robotics that we actually do to make the housing as a product, or we directly sell only the housing as the product?
Sorry, can you just repeat that? You were saying that you were building houses in 10 days.
Yeah, actually we
3D printed
houses in 10 days. And then we use robots to do that. And so for that, like, let's say when we say that robot is building buildings, VCs and developers, they are like very skeptic about it, though we show that it is like much stronger than... So your question is, should you use robotics or not? Yeah, for the marketing purpose, should we use robotics or like should we directly sell, okay, this is what the house we make and we just sell only the houses.
No, if you're actually using robots to build the house, you should definitely use them for the marketing pitch. I mean, like what Vipul was saying, people are doing exactly the opposite. They're not using robots to build the house, but they're still using it in the marketing pitch. So why wouldn't you? So you absolutely should. I mean, in fact,
Like when
put
you just-
maybe 2 more robots who are just standing there and not doing anything, but they're at least there. So for this one. So yeah, you absolutely should.
That
I don't
is-
see why you should not. In fact, I think show and tell in your case will work very well. I mean, you should go and tell them, you know what, or maybe have a camera there for 10 days, which is filming it like all the time, which we do actually from inside the house. You can even do it from outside and show the house getting built in 10 days and fast forward it and play it in whatever, 10 minutes for them. And that's it. I mean, what else do you need to do?
Yeah, what happens is like the VCs, like are the customers which we are looking to like interact. They are telling like this technology would not really represent a break. It's like
Got it. So customers are saying that robotics is not working for you, or VCs are saying robotics is not a good thing.
yeah.
No, I think you start from yourself. I mean, why don't you live in one of the houses that you built? I mean, that's really putting your, money where your mouth is, right? I mean, and that is leading the way. I mean, you can't do better than that. Or maybe your office, maybe if you don't want to do your house, but something that you stand for, you should be closest to it. I mean, if you're not going to speak up for it, who else is? So that's what I would do if I were you. And after that, I don't see why they should be. If you're working there, if you're living there pretty much most of the time and it's working, then that's your answer.
Yep. Thanks for that, and we are already doing that.
Thanks.
No, I feel, am I going to take more time or should I ask? Yeah, time is fine. Yeah, great. So Shrikant, you mentioned, I'm part of real estate for a longer duration now, worked on interior project management. I understand your challenges. And so now you said that there are challenges, especially with reference to a nightmare with reference to delivering the project. But I could see No Broker and Square Yard are also diversifying and trying to build the same model which you are, or maybe similar to it, and getting into interior space as well. So over to both of you, how do you think that what Shrikant is doing, which is already tested, and we know design is not something, architects are not available, labor is not available.
So how do you think you will win in Shrikant's space?
So they've set the template for us, them and Live Space. We are learning from them, actually. We're learning from the best. The beauty is, and I always tell my team, my colleagues, that home renovation, so first subplot is the market is large enough. There is such a large market, 10 large players can coexist. Organized market share should move from, let's say, 2-3% to 50-60% over the next few years. Second, I'm sure Saurabh will agree. In our case, if there is someone who has done it before and has done it right, there is a lot you can learn faster. Like it is a saying that the company which is the second entrant or third entrant in the space grows faster. I'm not saying we are yet, but because there is a template to follow. Like unfortunately, for example, someone like us, it was very difficult to build real estate and mortgage because there was no template to follow. Internally, building home renovations has been the easiest vertical amongst all for us so far.
And in general, these are large markets, these are fragmented markets, and these are very broken markets. So there's room for more than one player to build a very successful business. That's my view. Any other questions? Who has
Hi,
the
my
mic?
name is Rajesh Motwani. I run a relocation company. This is regarding Saurabh. If you could tell, how do you, from a C2C perspective, how do you weed out, make verifiable brokers and properties? How do you weed out the fake accounts and everything? So how do you scale?
Sure. That's a secret sauce, so I can't tell you how we do that. But I think what you've done is over a period of 8 years, you've built a very strong AI/ML algorithm that ensures that anybody who is doing anything on the platform is actually a genuine buyer, seller, owner, or tenant. So if you come to the platform, you'll find that 99.99% it is accurate. 0.01% there is a broker who might creep in somehow. But the community has become so strong that they report it within a couple of hours. So, that's what it is. And there are enough science which goes onto that. And we know that there's a lot of jugaad which keeps on happening. So we also keep on innovating. Our algorithm keeps on learning. But yeah, I think it's going to be like that.
Yeah, so I think the answer is tech. In the previous panel, when Nirupa and Vipul were talking, there was this whole thing of tech for the sake of tech. But here you've seen tech really solving the problem for no broker in weeding out fake stuff. Yes, next question. See, I only see the mic, so. Oh, Vipul, please go ahead then.
So I'll ask her slightly. See, please, so you mentioned, Shrikant, very rightly that you need to not know two things or be bad at two to do well at two. Whereas the entire thing is about customer grab, right? So any platform is obviously looking at customer and then cross-selling to that customer across the cycle. Now, if I'm doing that, that's kind of going against what you're saying. Do I see home lane gonna be doing broking tomorrow and brokers and no broker probably doing interiors like what Tanuj is doing? Or so no broker is, I think, is it already doing interiors?
Yeah. So I think we do.
So where does this go? Like ultimately one of you will acquire each other, or
Can I take that?
Yeah.
So I'll answer it in two ways. So one is, at least till I am CEO, I don't think we are going to do brokerage, because I don't think, that's my thought process. I'll answer it in a different way. McDonald's has been in the burger business for I don't know how many decades now, probably 40, 50 years. The same raw material used to make pizzas also, most of it at least. But they have not ventured into the pizza business. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason why they have scaled globally and now obviously one of the largest in the space. I think that is what I'm referring to. You can do everything, everybody can do everything, right? I mean, that's pretty much, it's a free country, as far as last I knew at least. But I don't think that is something that is as scalable. It's my personal view, but that's what I think, yeah.
Can we take more questions? Brigade team?
One last one.
Okay.
I'm Shivram from Brigade Group. Recently, two of my friends did their home interiors. One went to a local vendor, the other one went to Home Lane. My friend who went to Home Lane was a happy customer. The other one was not satisfied. So I might just, this question is to Srikanth. It's a combination of a product and services which makes the customer really happy. So product is in a very controlled environment and you have all the factors which are in your control. And of course you can deliver a good product. But the service is the one which is always questionable. When you scale it up across India, you are again competing with the same local workers, with the same unorganized vendors will also be doing that. How have you clicked this right so that scaling it across India is really a tough one? What is it that goes into this?
Yeah, so it's a good question, and I'll try and give you a very short answer to it, because so basically what you're saying is you cannot have supermen doing the home interiors in every house. Finally, they are the ordinary normal workers, and especially when you scale, you have to scale with them. So how do you do that? That's exactly what I was coming to when I said, be clear of what you don't want to do. So first of all, first thing to me is limit what you want to do, because the more complex the service, the less scalable it is. So we don't do stuff which is more scalable. Again, give you one or two examples. We have a very funny rule at Home Lane. Our average ticket size per house is 7 lakh rupees. More than 15 lakh rupees of worth of an order. If the sales guy has to take the order, he has to take my permission to take the order, So not that if I get a 70 lakh order, we're celebrating. We are actually not celebrating. Mostly we won't take that order also. That's because a 21 lakh order is not 3 times more complex than a 7 lakh order. It's 10 times more complex to execute than a 7 lakh order. That was the learning initially, that was what I was trying to tell you. So going back to your question, the way that we do this is we simplify what we do as services on the ground as much as we can. Manufacture as much as we can in the factory. The human intervention required needs to be at a semi-skilled level. It cannot even be skilled. Skilled is not scalable, not anymore. So that's really one of the things that we have done so far, and I don't see us doing anything differently. And that's why we are able to bring predictability into it. Even if I put a worker who is lesser skilled and one than somebody else, he won't take 10 times the time to do that job. He'll probably take 2 days more to do that job. So I'm still okay. But if I need a skilled person there and I can't find one, then your timelines can go completely awry. And that's why we came up with this thing of 45 days or we will pay you rent. We try to deliver every house in 45 days. Otherwise, we pay rent for every day of delay. So that's how we came up with this, because we said, let's have a North Star and then go after that North Star. So the one reason why we are able to do it is we specify what we do and we very clearly specify what we don't do. Yeah. That's right, yeah.
I think I'll just add one more thing, then Shrikant and Tanuj will agree, that technology also plays a very important role in this. So for scaling up across geographies, I think technology becomes very critical.
Okay, so thanks a lot. I think we have run out of time. I'd like to thank the audience for being so participative. I hope some of us will stay back for the hands that were raised and didn't get the mic. And thanks a lot to the panelists. I think you all have given great insights on what you all did to become and reach where you've done. And I'm sure there are a lot of lessons for all of us, including for investors like me who didn't look at no broker properly. So thanks a lot, everybody.